and get them!
How did Spartans build strong homes using just mud, wood, and stone? No machines, no fancy tools, just muscle, teamwork, and hard work. These warrior houses were more like bunkers than homes. If you've ever tried DIY without power tools, imagine that but ancient. Let's see how they actually did it. Turning 20 in ancient Sparta made you a full-time warrior, officially part of the elite. As a reward, the state handed you a chunk of land called a kleros. Sounds generous, but don't get too excited. You weren't setting up a dream home with a cute garden. Helots, Sparta's enslaved labor force, worked the land while you trained, marched, and lived in a never-ending boot camp. Choosing where to build your house in Sparta wasn't about finding a peaceful street or friendly neighbors. Spartans picked spots based on how fast they could reach the training grounds or the mess halls. That's right. Missing dinner with your squad was social suicide. You could lose your rights to skip lunch. No pressure. And no one had the freedom to build whatever they wanted. Enter the Gerousia, a group of serious, powerful old men who were like a mix of city planners and your strictest school teacher. They made the rules, checked the plans, and made sure everything followed Sparta's tough way of life. Your house had to be tough, plain, and not luxurious. Things like a comfy sofa or even a second floor were completely rejected because Spartan homes were built for survival, not comfort or style. These houses were built with one goal in mind, which was function. They had a space for weapon storage, quick escape routes, and nothing soft or decorative, more like a stone fortress than a cozy starter home. In Sparta, your home showed everyone exactly what kind of person you were: disciplined, always ready for battle, and not interested in comfort. Every wall, every corner was part of the warrior lifestyle. Life there was more than just living, it was all about staying prepared. So while the rest of Greece built temples and art filled villas, Spartans were out here crafting bunkers that meant business. Once a warrior had claimed his rightful plot and gained community approval, the real work began, gathering the raw materials that would transform empty land into a Spartan stronghold. Building a house in ancient Sparta was nothing like today's chill DIY videos or Pinterest dream boards. There were no power tools, no cute overalls, and absolutely no breaks. Spartans had to gather every single material themselves, using sheer strength, teamwork, and a stubborn refusal to quit. They got their stone directly from Mount Taygetus, a massive mountain that supplied the limestone used to build solid walls and strong foundations. Without cranes or carts, they hacked massive blocks from the mountain and dragged them back using ropes, sweat, and a whole lot of yelling. Think CrossFit, but the reward was another heavy rock. Laconia's forests supplied the timber. Pine and oak were the favorites, strong enough to hold up a roof and maybe stop a spear or two. Trees were chopped with bronze or iron tools, hauled back through rough terrain, and used immediately. Zero processing, zero polish, just raw strength and solid wood. Spartans collected thick, sticky clay from the Eurotas River Valley to hold everything together. This clay acted like glue, helping to keep the stones in place and making the building strong and steady. This natural mix became walls when blended with straw and crushed rock. It was heavy, messy, and perfect for building something that could take a hit. Forget wallpaper, your walls were literal dirt. Young Spartan boys trained in the agoge weren't spared from construction. Lifting stones, mixing clay, and dragging timber were part of becoming a warrior. These kids were learning to fight while doing full body workouts using building supplies at the same time. Childhood was boot camp with extra mud. Tools made from bronze and iron were passed down through generations. They weren't pretty, but they got the job done. With cracked handles and worn edges, these tools built entire homes and probably broke a few bones along the way. With materials stockpiled and the community workforce ready, Spartan builders got to work. They began with the most crucial phase, laying foundations strong enough to survive earthquakes and enemy attacks. Spartan homes were not made with comfort in mind. These people built like they were preparing for war, even inside their living rooms. First came the stone foundations, laid with cyclopean masonry. That's a fancy way of saying they stacked massive, awkward rocks together without any glue. Some of these stones were so huge that modern crews would need cranes. Spartans had muscle, not machines, and they used it like champs. They built wooden frames on top of the stone base, using a post and beam method to hold everything up. This method was all about strength and flexibility, perfect for earthquake-prone areas, and perfect for homes full of warriors who probably slammed doors for fun. These wooden beams weren't light either. One wrong move, and you had a full-on action movie injury scene. Building was a group event. No quiet contractor jobs here. Neighbors showed up in full force, sweating side by side. The same people who ate dinner with you at the Syssitia were lifting beams with you the next morning. A Spartan construction crew was all muscle, non-stop work, and absolutely no room for laziness. When the house looked complete, that's when the real stress started. The elders arrived for inspection like ancient building inspectors with serious attitudes. They stared down your structure, looking for any signs of weakness. One loose beam, and your reputation crumbled faster than your mud walls. Spartans always made offerings to Athena Chalkioikos before starting any building work. She was the goddess of war and wisdom, and you wanted her on your side. No prayers meant no protection. Even the toughest warrior wouldn't start stacking stones until Athena got her offering. Upon these solid foundations, Spartans would raise walls that embodied their dual nature, humble in appearance, yet formidable in defense. Spartan walls were built like tanks, no fancy wallpaper, no trendy open concepts, just raw strength and survival mode. These things were made to last through battles, storms, earthquakes, and probably the occasional teenage Spartan punching a hole in frustration. The main ingredient was mud, but not just any mud. This was river clay mixed with straw and, wait for it, animal hair. Goat hair, horse hair, whatever they had. Adding fuzz made the bricks tougher. Spartans packed that mix into wooden molds, let the sun dry it for a few days, and just like that, they had homemade mud bricks, ancient style. It was like baking brownies, except the final product smelled weird and weighed 50 pounds. To keep the walls from collapsing, builders stacked layers of stone and mud brick on top of each other. Stone held the weight, bricks filled the gaps, and the whole thing looked like a construction sandwich built for war. It was ugly, heavy, and absolutely brilliant. The glue holding it all together was lime mortar. Spartans made it by burning limestone until it turned to dust, then mixing it with water to make a paste that stuck like crazy. Once it dried, that stuff was solid. Modern cement wishes it had this kind of staying power. These walls were seriously thick and almost 2 feet wide. Windows were tiny and rare, more like arrow slits than anything you'd hang curtains on. Reinforced corners added strength, especially when half the household was trained to fight. The home was a military-grade bunker with a mud finish. And now, talk about the weather. Laconian winters hit hard, and summers roasted everything. So builders used angled roofs, deep overhangs, and thick lower walls to trap heat in winter and block the sun in summer. All without A, C, or heaters. Once the strong walls were up, the next step was building roofs that could protect the warriors from Laconia's tough weather. Spartan roofs were pure survival gear. Think less dream home and more battle bunker with shingles. These things were built to laugh in the face of storms, snow, and that unforgiving Mediterranean sun that could roast a goat in 10 minutes flat. First up were the roof tiles and terracotta pieces that worked like armor. They weren't cute or decorative. They were tough, made to handle heat, rain, and wind without breaking. They were chunky, heavy slabs of clay baked in massive community kilns. You'd see smoke rising from the kiln like a barbecue party, except the guests were bricks. Once cooked, tiles were slapped onto rooftops in tight rows, overlapping like fish scales. Rain hit these things and bounced off like it got rejected by Sparta itself. The roof's skeleton was solid timber. Beams of oak or pine are cut thick and placed with zero room for wobble. The roof was angled just right so rain could run off and snow could slide down. There were no leaks, no sagging, and no weak spots. One bad storm could ruin everything, and Spartans did not do roof drama. Not every home had the tile treatment. Simpler houses went with reed or straw thatch, quick to build, easy to replace, and basically the ancient version of a pop-up tent. It leaked sometimes, sure, but Spartans weren't exactly known for complaining. Inside the home, the hearth was the heart of everything. It was where people cooked, stayed warm, and sometimes shared deep conversations around the fire. But without vents, things got smoky fast. Builders left gaps in the roof or carved out smart little openings to let smoke out without turning the house into a sauna of doom. Spartan roofs were tough. They handled wind, rain, heat, and snow like champions. No insulation, no ceiling fans, just brain power and biceps. Your modern roof might have shingles and AC, but this one had clay armor and the approval of a warrior society. Total beast mode. Ancient edition. Once the shell was complete, Spartans turned their attention inward, creating interior spaces that reflected their philosophy of disciplined simplicity. Walking into a Spartan home was not like walking into a cozy cabin or some Pinterest-worthy apartment. It felt more like stepping into a military base with dirt floors and weapon racks. These people lived hard, and their homes showed it. Floors were made of packed earth. If someone had extra time or energy, they might lay down stone slabs. A few homes had basic mosaics, nothing wild, just a pattern to say, yeah, we tried. Forget marble floors or anything that felt soft under your feet. If the floor didn't hurt a little, then it probably wasn't truly Spartan. Rooms were split based on pure function. Men had their space, women had theirs, and storage was its own thing. No open floor plan, no trendy loft vibes. One room was for sleeping, another for eating, and one probably for sharpening swords while glaring at the wall. Furniture was barely even furniture. Benches were built into the walls. Storage was carved into nooks. Tables were plain, small, and strong enough to survive a sword drop. Beds had straw, maybe some animal skin, and zero fluff. Comfort was illegal. Lighting was handled with oil lamps and braziers. No candles, no chandeliers, and definitely no mood lighting. Windows were tiny and placed high, mostly so no one could sneak in and steal your go or your dignity. Temperature control was genius for something so simple. Thick stone and mud walls trapped warmth in winter and blocked heat in summer. Builders used airflow tricks, vents, high windows, and narrow halls to keep the place from turning into a giant oven. The Spartan hearth was like the original kitchen island, living room couch, group chat, and space heater, all in one smoky, glowing fire pit. It didn't need modern gadgets or fancy touches, just burning wood, simple meals, and the quiet comfort of shared moments. Right in the center of every house sat a big stone-lined fire pit. It wasn't for show. This was where dinner happened, warmth happened, and life happened. Think of it like the ancient version of a gas stove, space heater, and campfire hangout, except with zero safety features and a lot more ash. Cooking tools were kept to the bare minimum: clay pots, iron pans, and maybe even a stick with something stabbed on it. No air fryers, no blenders, just heat, patience, and a strong stomach. Burned food was totally normal, and if it was undercooked, that just meant extra crunchy protein. As for fuel, Spartans used olive wood, pine, and brace yourself, dried animal poop. Yes, dung. No electric bill, but definitely a strong smell. If today's families had to choose between paying for gas or burning goat poop, those Netflix marathons would feel very different. Fire and wood don't mix well in tight spaces, but Spartans had tricks. They packed clay around the hearth, added vents, and built narrow chimneys. It was like living with a bonfire in your living room and somehow not setting everything on fire. The best part was that the hearth was the center of family life. There was nothing to watch, nowhere soft to sink into, and nothing to scroll through. Everyone sat around the fire, eating, talking, sharing stories, or sharpening their swords, because Spartan bonding was intense. It's like replacing your sofa and smart TV with a smoky pit and iron stew pot. That's a family time, warrior edition. Building a house was only the beginning. Maintaining it required the same discipline and community cooperation that had created it. Spartan homes were strong but not unbreakable. As things wore out, mud walls cracked and roofs occasionally let the rain in. And when it did, Spartans rolled up their sleeves and got to work, because calling a repair guy wasn't an option. The repair guy was you, your neighbor, and probably your sword buddy from training. Each spring, families repaired their mud walls to keep their homes sturdy and weatherproof. Winter rain and cold turned parts of the house into a crumbly mess. So they mixed up fresh mud, added straw, maybe even a bit of goat hair, again, and slapped it on like ancient drywall. Think extreme home makeover, but with more dirt and zero glam squad. Fall was for roof duty, tiles shifted in storms, thatch flew off in the wind, and leaks were a nightmare. People climbed up and fixed things fast before the rain showed up like a plot twist in a disaster movie. No ladders, no toolkits, just muscle and a lot of yelling. Maintenance was never a solo job. When the army wasn't fighting, the whole town pitched in. It was like a group workout mixed with community service. One guy held the beam, another passed clay, and someone's grandma shouted instructions. Forget family BBQs, this was Spartan bonding. Stone walls could last a lifetime, but mud bricks wore down much faster. Storms wrecked them, earthquakes cracked them, and wild animals occasionally helped speed things up. After a big quake, the neighborhood looked like a deleted scene from 300. Chaos, rubble, and a whole lot of fix-it-before-sunset energy. Over time, families made small improvements to their homes. Maybe stronger wood, a better roof, or finally adding that second weapon rack Dad always wanted. Every patch, every fix, and every upgrade showed that Spartans didn't simply survive, they adapted. Modern homes cry when a faucet leaks. Spartan houses stood through storms, war, and earthquakes with no help from Wi-Fi, duct tape, or YouTube tutorials. These people made repairs look hardcore. Every crack they fixed said one thing loud and clear: this house is still standing, and so are we. These well-maintained homes provided the backdrop for daily life that shaped future generations of Spartan warriors. These places were part military bunker, part training ground, and part survival hut. Inside those thick mud and stone walls, life was strict, loud, and non-stop. If your idea of home is scented candles and fluffy slippers, you're in the wrong timeline, starting with family life. Spartan homes had clear lines between what men did and what women did. Even rooms were split. Men had their space, usually closer to the entrance or wherever the weapons were kept. Women ran the rest of the house, which included the kitchen, storage, and probably everyone else's schedule. If Sparta had Google Calendar, moms would still be the ones managing it. Kids were raised Spartan style, which basically means tough love at full volume. Boys stayed home only until they turned 7. After that, off they went to the Agoj, the state's brutal training system. No bedtime stories, no packed lunches, just military drills, cold food, and lots of bruises. Girls stayed home longer and learned how to keep the house running, and also how to throw a javelin, because even the daughters of Sparta were not to be messed with. Daily routines were intense. The day started early with stretching, light workouts, or helping fix something. Families didn't grab coffee or scroll through phones in the morning. Breakfast was probably barley, and your to-do list involved chopping wood or repairing a wall. Dinner was cooked over the central hearth and eaten together. Then came evening talks, chores, or just sitting by the fire while sharpening a blade. Quality family time, Spartan edition. Privacy was non-existent. These homes were small and everyone lived close together. Wanting alone time was pointless. Privacy didn't exist in Spartan homes. Doors were always open, walls were thin, and if something happened in your home, the whole street probably knew by lunchtime. Summer brought a little relief. Families did a lot of stuff outside, cooking, sleeping, and working. Winter forced everyone inside, crowding around the fire like it was the last warm thing on earth. But it wasn't all about family. Spartan homes had serious military duties too. Every house came with weapon storage, swords, spears, shields, you name it. It was hanging on a wall or stacked in a corner. This wasn't for show, it was the kind of setup where you had to grab your gear in 3 seconds flat. Some homes had open courtyards or small dirt spaces outside, perfect for morning drills, wrestling, or whatever punishment came with slacking off in training. This was ancient CrossFit with zero music and a high chance of bleeding. And yes, kids joined in too. Guests were welcome, but not in a soft modern way. If a warrior stopped by, you gave him food, fire, and a place to sleep. There were no guest rooms with fluffy blankets. You tossed a mat near the fire, handed over some stew, and maybe offered an extra spear. That was Spartan hospitality. Wealth and rank showed in quiet ways: a thicker door, a stronger roof, an extra room or a deeper hearth. No golden plates or painted walls, just solid upgrades that said, "We've earned this." You flexed by not showing off. That's a next level power move. Spartan homes were tough, plain, and ready for battle. Nothing fancy, just mud, wood, and muscle. No soft beds or shiny stuff, but they got the job done. If you enjoyed this wild ride through history, subscribe and come back for more.